breaking news from the UK, and we have the latest.
The assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
You shouldn't send your child to school.
Pandemic is not a word to use lightly.
Cafes, pubs,
or
bars,
carelessly.
At this point, but the death toll is rising at a faster rate than in Italy.
To leave their home for the following very
Shopping,
limited
one form of exercise
If
a
you
day.
don't follow the rule, the police will have the powers to enforce them.
This
including through
is not a
fines
rehearsal.
and dispersing gatherings.
You will only have one chance at this. Stay at home.
I was sitting here in my garden taking a breather from the mayhem that is our world at the moment, where I thought a few things. The first thing was, the moment right now is scary. In fact, it's terrifying. And I think we're all entitled to feel that way. Notice how I call it a moment. We're battling something that has no physical being, and we've got no weapons to fight it.
It could take 6 to 9 months for the first coronavirus vaccine to be ready, according to infectious diseases expert Prof. Wang Linfa.
It's even scarier when there's an increase in the death toll every day, or we're told about another symptom to look out for. The second thing I thought was, I am living in one of the craziest times ever. Our loved ones have become our enemies of sorts. We're physically having to distance ourselves from them and steer clear if they should even cough or sneeze. And even before all this, we saw what happened in Australia. And at one point we thought we were at the brink of World War III.
Midnight, these salvos of missiles were fired.
And if those moments taught us anything, it's we solve things. And that our society will literally mean anything. And I mean anything. How did we take World War III, possibly the scariest thing that could happen to us, and meme it? Meme it! Anyways, this leads me on to my third thought, which led me down a rabbit hole of ideas and self-analysis, and the reason I'm making this video. Bill Gates said in a talk years ago,
"We're not ready for the next epidemic."
He then goes on to describe how the science of today isn't ready for the next epidemic. But a factor I think he left out of his presentation was people's behaviours. And with that in mind, here's what the video is all about. Society has a tendency to reacting anxiety in times of distress, and it's damaging. Instead, we should embrace fear, and with that find the ability to cope. This is what I'm trying to put forward. I know it's a bit wordy, but let me give an example. Panic buying, a hot topic during this moment.
Frankly, we should all be ashamed that that has to happen.
This is a perfect example to my point. Supermarkets have started to struggle with the amount of pressure placed on them because of people's worry of missing out and being unprepared for a disaster, when this type of action will be the cause of the next disaster. Now, I'm not a scientist and/or psychologist. Actually, I'm a screenwriter, filmmaker, and actor. So if there's anyone watching this looking for any of those things, I'm your guy. But what I love more than anything is story. I think it's one of the many reasons we exist, but that's for another video. But it is the reason I love writing and was doing that instead of focusing on my A-levels. I still passed though. And I think it helps me understand character and people quite well. And why I think we need to change the way we are acting with this situation urgently. Let's look at what's going on at the moment, like a film structure. Why? Well, we've all got a lot of time on our hands. 3 acts over any period of time, we are the character, and we choose how to react to plot points. Now, I think we've just left Act 1 and entered Act 2. It's important to note that when I made this video, the UK just announced 15,000 cases. We've been introduced to a threat, we're understanding its capability, and trying to figure out the best approach. I think we're right here, beginning of Act 2, just after we've made the choice that propels us into the next stage. At the end of any act, the character has made the decision not to turn back. It's here that I feel our character has decided to go into panic mode, and this means that the confrontation of Act 2 will hit us harder because we'll act impulsively and selfishly. For example, refusing to stay home, and back to my point of panic buying. We then have to accept the possibility that in Act 2 there will be more obstacles, possibly more fatalities, longer wait for vaccine. I don't know, but it's the character's duty here to react to hurdles correctly, otherwise they will fall harshly just before going into Act 3. That's what I want to prevent. In Act 3, the threat is resolved. Normally just before we go into this act, the character has taken something from the B story to find an inner strength to defeat the threat. Or as I fear in our story, the character hits catastrophe to realise it themselves. It's that catastrophe I hope we can avoid, because in our story, that could be an even worse reality than the one we're currently in. I recognise there are hundreds of different film structures in this modern era, but I decided to go with the most universal and recognisable one. I want to show you an example of my ideology and why I think it will work. A couple years back, I watched a film that really moved me, and then went on a long journey of analysing it, eventually finding two other film enthusiasts and video essay guys, if that's what you can call them, who explained why this film moved me so much. That was Michael Tucker from Lessons of the Screenplay and Evan Pushak from Nerdwriter 1. Thank you for inspiring me to make this video. The film was Disney Pixar's Inside Out. The basic plotline is 11-year-old Riley has moved home, leaving behind her old life. She and her 5 core emotions struggle to cope with her new life, especially when joy and sadness go missing from headquarters.
Can I say that curse word now?
But what I want to take away from this film is its main message. To find true happiness, you must first embrace sadness. Throughout the whole story, Joy is looking for a way to return to Riley, her world. But can't, she's too consumed by the worry of Riley's life without her. She becomes selfish, completely abandoning sadness just after sadness helped Bing Bong, the imaginary friend, get back on track to the mission.
I'm sorry. Riley needs to be happy. Joy?
This is how society ignores sadness every day. Instead, we focus on forcing happiness and not overcoming the misery by simply allowing it to exist. As a result, we react like Joy, acting selfishly, abandoning our morals and thinking about our own happiness instead of others. It isn't until she hits catastrophe that Joy realises sadness comes before happiness.
Came to help because of sadness.
With this realisation, she makes it back to headquarters, but this time allowing sadness to lead the day, therefore restoring happiness to Riley's life and returning her to her parents. This idea is also highlighted in Joy's character design. She's the only character whose eyes and hair colour aren't the same as her skin tone. They're blue, which has been introduced as sadness, furthering the idea that sadness lives within happiness. I think if we continue acting like Joy before her realisation, we will soon face our own calamity. So what I'm asking is, can we try and return joy to our world by embracing the sadness that is this moment, this virus? Stop avoiding the fear, but instead use it to drive us forward to a better tomorrow. How can we come together like joy and sadness did? I hope that after all this is over with, we are reminded about community and togetherness, that we will appreciate the people around us and the lives we have, that every moment is important and whatever the future holds, if we act calmly and not in a frenzy, we'll be okay. I want to leave today on a video that I think showcases my ideology very well. A country coming together to embrace the sadness and show support for those who are working hard during this moment. This video also proves that if we listen to a kids' film, we could have had the answer to our sadness all along. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed. Just want to really briefly say before I leave, I hope when all of this is done, we remember those who risk their lives to save ours and work hard every day, not just during times like this, and we continue to show that applause that we did that night. But that's it from me. Stay safe, stay healthy, and watch Inside Out. It's a great movie. It's a really great movie.